Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Smark Tank. I have a very special treat for all the loyal and not so loyal fans of this show. This man has written and executive produced several amazing projects, including, but not limited to, 90210, Chips, Revenge of the Nerds 3, Knight Rider, just to name a few. But when you scour the internet as hard as I do sometimes, you'll notice that Larry Mollin has some WWE credits to his name. Wrong WWE credits at that, but Larry, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shannon. You know, you should say Beverly Hills 90210 because there was a reboot called 90210, which was really bad, and we don't like to be associated with
Okay,
that.
so I'm sorry.
Right.
Beverly Hills 90210.
Right.
Did they actually have the...
Which is interesting because I can transition right to that because that's why I was hired by the WWE because they were looking for people who had written soap operas with long character arcs.
Okay.
And as they explained to my agent, their season ran from WrestleMania to WrestleMania.
Yes.
And so on.
And that's why you got hired.
In 2005, yes. I got
story.
approached by Walden Media, who I guess, or my other colleague who's here, Gary Brown, which you'll introduce in a second. We both were pulled in because corporate WWE had given the creative I don't know if it was a mandate, but they basically said they wanted to upgrade the product in 2005. I guess they were starting the new SmackDown on UPN.
Right.
And Raw was still on USA. And so we, Gary Brown and I, got pulled in or attracted or lured or hooked or whatever. And 2005.
So what was their pitch to you exactly?
Well,
when they, or did they?
There was money. There was money involved.
Right. Yeah,
which,
I'm sure.
That got my attention.
Yeah.
And I had come from a theater background, and I couldn't think of any bigger theater because I had two boys, so I had who were as young boys. We had been to WrestleMania. I had seen Hulk and Roddy Piper at USC in probably the late '80s, and also in Vegas as a WrestleMania there we saw too. So I was involved in that. There was an animated cartoon that I was a little bit involved in, Rockin' Wrestling, I think it was called.
Oh, you were involved in Rockin' Wrestling?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it turned into a screenplay that I did based on a Hulk Hogan story, which thank God Vince never remembered because it was a disaster. And that happened maybe in 85. And so when I was hired 20 years later, I did not bring it up. But I had spent a weekend with Vince and going around in his limousine and doing this story of Hulk's, which was a non-wrestling story we sold to Warner Brothers called American Made, about a teacher, kind of like To Sir with Love story. The guy was an ex-wrestler. And it was kind of a heartfelt story that Hulk had pitched out to the executive there and sold it. And all of a sudden, we're writing it. And I kept saying, shouldn't there be wrestling in this story? And everyone's going, no. It's
got a heart of gold.
We
want to show his other side.
Needless to say, when we handed it in, they said, no, we think we want Hulk, but we want wrestling.
Yeah.
And so that was it. So it was a failure for me. Anyway, the one interesting tidbit I can say in that ride with Vince in 1985 or 86 was that...
was this the steroid scandal?
I was going to say, someone had just died. Yeah, I just remember that thing. It just died. Oh, I can't remember the guy's name now.
Gary, I just found out that you were coming here from Larry, which is a tremendous gift. You directed several Raw and SmackDown segments.
I did. Well, I was hired as a director, and I did. It was the backstage segments.
Right.
I was hired to direct. Obviously, I do nothing about choreographing or dealing with, the in-ring thing.
That's like the road agents and stuff, right?
Yeah. But the backstage elements, to add to what Larry said, WWE had hired, they had recommended that they bring Hollywood people in because they really had nothing else to say because they didn't understand what was going on there. And so they did that. So, I did the backstage stuff. But to do the backstage stuff, you have to sort of observe it for, they give you a week to go, I was working with Stephanie McMahon and
Larry, you love Stephanie, right? She's like your best friend.
Yeah,
right?
She was my best friend too.
Yeah.
Let me.
So our chances of getting hired, Bob Black, are out the window by WWE.
Let me tell you about my interview process.
Yeah.
Which was my agent called me, and I just moved back to New York. I lived in L.A. for many years, and I was looking for something to do. So he calls me and says, I found out about. There's the WWE they're hiring Hollywood people, veteran Hollywood people to to do their production, to do the backstage and this and that. So first I went to an HR interview, which I don't know if you did that. Yeah, an HR interview, which I'd never done in my life because I'm from Hollywood, and,
right?
It's just that doesn't happen that way. So you do the HR, you go up to Stanford, you do the HR interview, you come back, then you wait a week, and then I get a call. Stephanie McMahon wants to see you. I go up there. I was to Stanford. It was like at noon, and there was another guy there, Rudy Fishman, who was hired to be a writer. Rudy's a good guy, and we sat in the waiting area at Stanford at the building from like noon till 5:30.
Wow.
And I kind of went. I'd kind of been warned about how some companies do things. They want to test you, so I was under the impression this was a test, and so I didn't really say anything. So at 5:30, the woman comes down and says to me, "Yeah, she just can't. She's got a big problem. Can't see you." And she says to Rudy, "We can send you back to California, or you can stay here for the week. It's on us, right?" He says, "Well, send me back to California."
Wow, a week in Stamford, Connecticut. What a treat.
I guess in New York. Yeah, but he wanted to get the hell out. He went back to California. They brought us both back. Next week, they sent Vince's driver to get me in New York. And I came back. And I just waited like 2 hours this time. And I interviewed with Stephanie, and she said, "Okay, let's do this." So the next thing I know, Larry was there before me. So I met Larry when I came in. It was like I just glommed onto him because he felt right. So
that's how I felt with Larry too.
Everyone
actually.
does. Then they find out otherwise. But
yeah, no.
So I was doing backstage stuff. But then all of a sudden I am a writer, and I became a writer. I wasn't told I was becoming a writer. Stephanie said, "Write this."
Oh, she wanted you to write a segment for her.
Oh, I did.
And
I
you
did.
just were like thrust in.
Yeah, it
feels like that's how they do things there.
Yeah,
sometimes.
it's like jazz,
like chaos.
It's
very
much
organized chaos.
It's purposeful chaos.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So that's how you. So you ended up actually writing for
I wrote
them.
I wrote some segments. I mean, the thing is that
did you originally get credit for that? Because on your IMDb,
no. I was I don't know what it's. But I came in as a director.
I don't even know if actually it's your IMDb, to be honest.
Well, it's not on my. It's not on my IMDb anymore because it doesn't match anything else I've ever done. If I continue to do wrestling or something related to it, it would make sense there. But when you're looking for something else, and someone says, "What's this wrestling thing on your resume?" It's for a director. You go, well, okay. I don't
know if I want this.
It's almost like doing another podcast with it to explain why.
Yeah.
But
I don't know how I got you guys.
So no, but the thing is that you go, you learn. They give you a week, and then you just jump right in.
Right.
And it's I'm sure Larry could tell you this. It's unlike anything you've ever done before. You have to unlearn everything you've done, and just do what they do.
Yeah, right. I think that really is true because we really were strangers in a strange land. As much as I watched wrestling, and even as a kid, first generation, I watched black and white wrestling. Got in New York. We were Hollywood people, and I remember going there and not understanding a word of what they were saying. And I felt, because they're speaking the Carney language, and they're talking. He got over, he got color. It's a work, it's a shoot. I'm just holding on, trying to understand. And I'm good in languages, so I did pick it up pretty quick. But the other thing I remember being just so impressed with was that because we come from Hollywood, the chairs they were hitting each other with were not fake chairs.
Yeah,
this was not fake glass. These guys were phenomenal athletes, working at a level I had never seen of precision, and that was very impressive. And that part and the dedication of those guys was pretty good. And I think that part was great. The hard part was, just to give a frame to this, I believe after the fact, as the autopsy on our careers there were done, I think we were kind of set up because corporate wanted to upgrade the product, but creative, they didn't give a shit. And I just remember when you were talking, I got hired by a guy, I can't remember his name, but he was the head of creative at the time. I got hired by a guy who was a writer from Hollywood, and who now was the head of creative.
Yeah.
This is 2005, you have to look it up. This was,
Ryan,
he hired me maybe
Ryan.
February.
Yeah.
Anyway, he gave the big pitch, and he was part of the on-site pitch. I got taken to the WrestleMania there, so I knew it was February. It was a very weak WrestleMania. We had Batista and John Cena, I think. It wasn't particularly interesting, because I had seen some. But anyway,
wait, that's when they hired you? Was
yes.
Batista and John Cena?
Yes, when that was going on.
Okay.
We had, but no, John Cena was SmackDown then, right? He was SmackDown.
Yeah. But he was.
So wait, what year were you hired?
2005.
2000. Okay,
right,
all right.
2005.
Okay.
So anyway, this guy hires me, this writer or whatever. He's the head of creative. We're going to do all this stuff. Okay, I was going to say, and because it's coming back to me now, I got hired in February, and I actually did 2 weeks there. And then that was the deal I made with them. I wanted to do 2 weeks to see if I liked it, and I would come back. So I went out there in 2 weeks, and I did the stuff there for 2 weeks. I showed up in Chicago, and I wrote stuff like right away. Like you said, I think I did John Coachman and
he just recently came
and
back
this other
too.
guy, Heidenreich.
Heidenreich?
I was
The
writing
poet?
for him, the poet.
Did you come up with that gimmick, the poetry
I
gimmick?
certainly added to it, but yeah, I think there's a possibility I might have. I have to think back to it. But anyway, the 2 weeks were fine, and then I said yes, and then I went home and got my things together to come back for real, and I come back and show up for work, and the guy who hired me, he says, "I just got fired."
Oh.
I went, "Oh, okay." So I'll see you. So now there's nobody now, and I'm meeting my team, which is David Lagana, and who was very, very nice to me as a young man. He's probably 28 years old. I was older than Vince
Right.
by a couple of months. And so it was interesting. But then, shit happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we tried to do, look, I've written all kinds of things. I've written comedy, I've drama, whatever. I mean, animated. I knew I could do this. And it felt like there was a hazing period. We were being hazed in a certain way.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we didn't understand that, certainly at the time, which just made us very anxious. And the first meeting I went to in Chicago, I just came in there, and I sat down, and I came right in the middle. They were getting ready to go to broadcast in a couple of hours, and it was the agents' meeting, and Lagana's sitting there reading the script, and Vince is there, and the whole room is there, and Lagana finishes. It's taken about 15 minutes, and Vince goes, "Well, I heard of watching paint dry, but that was like listening to paint dry." And they just tore everything apart. And then Vince starts telling what the show is going to be, and I'm going like this, just trying to keep up with it. All of a sudden, I feel this tap on my shoulder. I look around, it's Stephanie. She points her finger at me and says, "Come outside," like the fucking principal.
Oh, boy.
She goes, "You were nodding."
Oh.
I went, yeah. I was trying to understand. It says, "Vince does not like nodding. He wants everyone to make up their mind. If you're going to nod, people think you're in agreement. People want to be open-minded. Do not nod." That was my introduction.
Yeah.
There were rules.
Yeah,
It's sort of like there was not to compare it to the Cosa Nostra, but there were rules. I made the mistake in Phoenix. This was in the middle of an entire saga I was going through with him. Of walking.
Who's him?
Well, them, the whole team, the whole.
Okay.
I mean, the McMahons. I don't know if you remember on Mad TV, there used to be a bit with these people that ran a greeting card company, and they were in wheelchairs. The two bosses, and they would wreak havoc over all their employees. And they'd run their wheelchairs into them. They'd yell at them, and they would just make your life total chaos. And honestly, I think Larry would agree with this. We were both petrified of Vince. I mean, we worked with a lot of people in our careers, and I've directed a lot of people, and I just never worked for anybody like this.
I was terrified of Stephanie more than
No, I was not terrified of Stephanie. He just didn't like me after 2 weeks. But Vince really, I couldn't. When you know someone has no one to answer to whatsoever, and that they have all this power, it's difficult. And then you realize you don't know anything about what they do. You're trying to learn. But I'll try.
Right, they scouted you guys. They brought you guys in, and then they basically we hate you.
Yeah, they really did. Well, as the other writers, the guys that had been there for a while that really knew the game, and expected to be promoted. We come in, but the thing is that
they carried us.
There was a revolving door of Hollywood people coming in. They'd last a week sometimes, and they were gone. We managed to hang on, for whatever reason. And by the time Larry left, he was of all the Hollywood guys, he was senior, and I held on for a little longer. And when I left, I was like Vic Morrow in combat. I was like the grizzled veteran.
Talking about the learning. I don't know if I ever mentioned this story to you, but this was my introduction to the madness. So I can't remember what town it was in, but for whatever reason, I didn't get an assignment for the show.
Okay.
So, and I said, Stephanie, you don't want me to write anything? She says, just watch Vince. Just follow Vince around today and go sit with him in Gorilla. And Gorilla was the area, tented area, where Vince basically controlled everything. You had your bank of cameras. You had the cameraman. There's a cameraman, Jerry, who's been there a long time. I don't know his last name. He's a key figure in this story. And there'd be a couple of other technical people. And Vince would sit there with his headset, which is basically plugged into the referee and also the ringside commentators. At this point, it was probably Michael Cole and
so it's like a wireless clear comm system.
And what's his name?
The cowboy.
The cowboy.
JR.
JR.
Yeah. Now it's like Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and a third person.
Right, Michael, good guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm following Vince around, and then we get into Gorilla. And we're sitting there, Gorilla. I know I told you this story, Gary. I think I did. And Vince is there, and he goes, I just shit in my pants. I thought I was going to fart, but I shit in my pants. Here, smell it. And he proceeded to turn around and put his butt in everyone's face so you could smell it, hoping that Jerry, the last guy, the cameraman, would throw up because he knew Jerry had a weak stomach. That's why he wanted to do this so bad. And Jerry just fucking threw up in his mouth. But it was like, what the? So I just sat there and, took it. This is passed for normal.
Yeah, it was a constant locker room.
Also, it's like high school.
The first time I went to Gorilla, and you talk about color, when some of these really great matches, the guys would come back with blood, and they would come through Gorilla when they come out, and the blood on them was, they were just drenched in their own blood, and I was. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before.
No, we're Hollywood people. It's fake. It's all fake. No, it was a shoot. It was that's
all right. You've got to hear first, everybody. Wrestling, it's real.
Oh no,
in certain degrees.
These guys, they take a lot of pain.
I know.
The punishment is real.
Very respectful.
Yeah, it's sports entertainment, but the punishment is really real. Another thing I remember, talking about color. Early on, there was a match, and it was like one of the cruiserweights. It was Paul London.
Okay.
Yeah. So Paul London, the guy he was fighting at the time, this is 2005, maybe the spring, broke his nose. It was a shoot. And like Gary said, he's coming back in with the blood going. And my assistant, this kid, Sean Conaway, who, terrific, wrestling, diehard kid, grabs a camera without being asked and says, Paul, just, he writes him a quick thing and he shoots Paul right there, saying, you got this. You think you can get this belt from me? You're never gonna get it. Well, you broke my nose. Whatever the rant was, it was a promo. He was quickly cut, and he finished it. And this is like the.
Did that ever make air?
So here's what happened. So this is this kid's like the intern, the assistant, just kind of taking initiative and
trying to grab the brass ring.
Right, and we were all proud. We said, "Way to go, man!" Now he plays it. He puts the tape in for Stephanie. Stephanie looks at it and goes, well, he says belt. We can't show this to Vince. Vince does not like the word belt. The belt means the championship. It's either the championship or the title. Never say belt. The show was crushed. Needless to say, he's not writing in wrestling anymore.
Oh man,
I know.
Yeah,
killed his.
So that's the running theory that we have here at the Smark Tank is that not just Vince but Stephanie apparently also is stifling creativity. So like. When you actually want to take initiative and do something, it's kind of like a 50-50 scenario where they're either going to just love it or hate it.
Well, we can't speak what goes on now, but then certainly Brian Gerwitz was very respected, and whatever thing came through Brian was going to really be heavily considered. And they were all, the writers were terrific guys, and majority of the wrestlers, except the one Gary's going to talk about now.
Well, just to talk about Stephanie for 1 second, I had gotten along with Stephanie very well for 2 weeks. And then we were in St. Louis, and there was a scene with Muhammad. And she wanted something done very specifically, but it wasn't working. So when she left, I shot the scene and changed it to something minor, right? And she came back and saw the footage and said, "What? Why did you change that?" I said, "Well, it wasn't working the other way." And she said, "No, that's the way I want it." And ever since, right after that point, I was not her friend anymore. So that happened quickly. But we're in Phoenix, and I'm doing a scene. It was at the arena, so in one of the back offices, I'm doing a scene with JBL, right, the Texan,
Right. Yeah.
and Teddy, who was what was Teddy's last name?
Teddy Long.
Yeah,
Oh,
Teddy Long,
the manager. Yeah.
Great guy. At this time, his character, he was the general manager of SmackDown.
Yeah.
So JBL had defeated the Undertaker the week before. The scene was about a rematch, right? That JBL was telling Teddy he didn't want the rematch, something of that nature. And so I'm talking to JBL, and we're setting up the shot and saying, "Look, let's look at because when you were doing these scenes, there was no script. They didn't have lines. They improv. You would go over what direction you wanted the scene to go, what things you had to cover." And I'm going, I'm talking casually, as a director does sometimes to his talent. And I said, so JBL, remember you beat the Undertaker last week, so the guy's upset and down, and he wants a rematch. You won't give it to him, and Teddy's trying to bargain with you, and you won't do it. So we do the scene. I do it. It's fine. I go, now, whenever you do a scene, you got to go down, find Vince, wherever he is, and bring him back to okay it. So I'm walking with Vince and Stephanie, who's also coming. We're walking through, these are big arenas. They have a lot of open spaces where they put vans and things like that. And when you're walking with Vince, people want to talk to him. So some guy comes up and wants to talk to Vince. So Vince stops, gives him the ring, and he says something. We go another 20 feet. And I got to get this thing ready to show him. So someone else stops him, and I just walk ahead and get the scene ready for him. He comes up. I show it to him, and Vince goes, "Fine, it's good. I like it." I was happy. It was my work was done for the night. I go back. And about 20 minutes later, I notice no one's talking to me. Wrestlers are turning their back to me. Even the craft service people are turning their back to me. Everyone's turning their back to me. Michael Hayes comes up to me and says, "Hey, Gary, I just want to talk to you a second." I said, "What's going on, Michael?" He says, "You do know that The Undertaker is the most respected wrestler in our business." I said, "Yeah, sure. I know, yeah." He says, "Okay, that's good. Good. I'm glad you know that." And I continue on, and we go do more. And we get on the. No one's talking to me on the plane except for the writers. I'm going, what the hell's going on? So we flew on the plane cross country back to the airport, get back to New York, and as I'm getting off, Stephanie's in the front, and she says, and now this is. I forget what day this is. This is like a
Wednesday.
Wednesday, we usually take the next day off. And she said, and I'm in New York, they're in Stanford, and she says, "Gary, I want you to come in tomorrow and talk to us." I said, "Oh, okay, yeah, fine." That means I gotta take the train to Stanford, lose my day off. But so I go up to Stanford the next day, and I sit. I'm supposed to have a 10:30, 11 o'clock with Stephanie, and it was like my interview. I sat all day till like 7 o'clock at night, And I kept going the opposite. Stephanie, "No, I'm sorry. I see her playing with her nephew, this place is insane."
This is playtime. She has that schedule.
She's got executive time. So then she calls me into the office, and we were supposed. I was supposed to go to Vegas because they were doing a pay-per-view. I was supposed to go to Vegas and have a few days off, prepare, and have a little fun in the sun. And they had called me back. After no one was talking to me, I was told, "No, you're going back to New York. You're not going to Vegas." I said, "All right." So at finally around 7:30, Stephanie, "I'm sorry that," and Stephanie was very personable when it was one-on-one, and she, I got along with her till I didn't, but she said, "Look, I have to tell you something, Gary. Vince is, we want to keep you here. You do a good job, but Vince is not happy with you. He thinks you're nervous around him." I said, "Well, I am nervous around him. The guy's scary." He says, I do something. He looks at me like he calls me Hollywood. I don't understand that. And she said, well, okay, well, you're going to go to Vegas tomorrow with Vince and my mother in the plane, and you get to know him a little bit. I said, just me? He goes, yeah, just you. I said, okay, I'll do that. But then he says, well, let me get down to what's really bothering us. And she says, The Undertaker is the most respected wrestler in our business. And I said, I heard that before yesterday too. I said, what? Yeah. And he goes, well, when you were doing that scene yesterday and you were directing him, apparently, according to JBL, you called The Undertaker a guy. I said, I did? He says, yeah, when you were giving your direction to him, you called The Undertaker a guy. The Undertaker is not a guy. He's The Undertaker. He's the most respected wrestler in the business. And she said, this might seem silly to you, but it's the way it is. I go, okay, well, I'll make sure that I don't do that again.
You can't call a guy?
Don't you do it.
I would never.
Well,
I mean,
JBL to do that was just ridiculous.
Well,
Gary was doing that, and then you're over here, and this guy's over here. He's just giving direction.
Let me say it. This JBL, he was doing it. He wanted to cause trouble for me for whatever reason.
He caused trouble for a lot of people.
But wait a minute, it gets better. So I mean, and then she also said to me, and also, don't walk in front of Vince ever.
What?
Remember I said, she said, don't walk in front of Vince. It shows disrespect. I said, I wasn't disrespecting him. I was trying to get to the office to get the video ready so he could see it, so he could go on and do his job out of respect. He goes, no, just don't walk in front of him.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I said, okay, I'll do that. I mean, these are big things. So, but going back to the JBL thing, I left WWE. I had some stories. One night, like 2 years later, I said, "What's going on?" I'm guiding around. I'm surfing around on the TV, and I see WWE SmackDown. Put it on. JBL is doing the commentary with JR, and I don't know. It's Undertaker is wrestling. I forget who, but. Whoever it was, he's in the ring, and the Undertaker, his eyes roll up, and he gets steam comes out of his ears, and he destroys his opponent, right? And turns to JR and says, the Undertaker is just unbeatable. You just don't want to get that guy angry.
Oh, my God.
I go, wait a minute.
You can't do that.
He said that.
No, it was all. JBL also did this thing. Sean Conway, the kid who they wouldn't put his bid on with the color with saying the word belt. He was in a tour. I think we were in Green Bay, and JBL. They had gotten really drunk that night. I guess we were flying home the next day or whatever. And he put gay porn on the kid's hotel room thing in his hotel room so everyone would see it. And also they changed his alarm so he wouldn't wake up, and he missed the freak. Oh, we were going to another city, I guess. He missed the flight too. He really screwed this kid up. He almost got him fired, which was just mean. It was they called it a rib.
Yeah, anytime he can rib you, he definitely tries.
He was rough. I stayed clear of him. I was thinking on the positive side. One story. We were in London. Not London, we were in Birmingham.
Okay.
And I had been writing something which was pretty good. We had I guess it was the Rey Mysterio turn heel.
Okay.
Yeah, and against his tag partner, Eddie Guerrero.
Oh.
And the show before, at the end of it, Guerrero had pulled off his mask. Now we're in Birmingham, England, and I got to write Eddie coming out with the mask. And wow, I mean, I really, I put some time into it. I had like a 1.5-page thing, which was freaking impassioned about, they had been friends or whatever, and it was really freaking good. I'm a decent writer. And so I sat with Eddie, as we do, to go over the text, what do they call it? The verbiage. Mm-hmm. The verbiage, right. To go over the verbiage. And Eddie looks at me and goes, you know what? I'm just going to say nothing. I literally turned white because I got to go back to Stephanie now and tell her he's not going to say anything. And now I think we're getting close to showtime because I didn't really even ever have time, I don't think, to even tell her that I couldn't do this. And And so I said, fuck. And I had already been in trouble that day because I had done a Ric Flair thing, and they were too cheap to send assistants with us. We had to like proof our own stuff and deliver it. And
did you misspell his name?
I spelled
wrong?
Ric Flair's name with a K, and
yeah.
I had to like Gary. He's the most respected, greatest wrestler in sports entertainment history.
Yeah.
And and I had to apologize to the whole company, and that was the day one. The second day I had to do the same thing for another reason. But anyway, so this night now I'm living in fear. I'm in Birmingham, and this guy I'm supposed to be writing for is not going to say anything, and. So his entrance comes out, and he comes out there, and the place is packed with like families of just bogans, just crazy people with like studs and everything. Birmingham's a real working class town. They love this shit. And Eddie just stands there and holds the mask up high, and they go fucking batshit. And he does it again. And literally for like 10 minutes, he just kept holding the thing up and working them up like that. I mean, it was the greatest thing I had ever seen. I learned so much that I knew nothing about this business. And, it was just the beginning of it.
Yeah, it was kind of like after Roman Reigns came out of WrestleMania, and he just stood in the ring after he'd beat The Undertaker.
The audience is with you. He knew his audience so well, and he knew what that friendship between him and Ray had meant. That it had really been, it was an earned moment. The next day, again, because I had no assistant, Stephanie called the company. Larry Mollin just delivered the script to the wrong black guy. We had two black guys. We had Orlando. We had Booker T and Orlando.
Orlando Jordan.
Orlando something.
I don't see color.
And whatever it is,
Larry, I don't see color.
And Michael Hayes goes, well, there were no black characters on Beverly Hills 90210.
Oh man!
But again, it was in front of the whole company. Literally, my whole time there, I felt like I was 10 years old.
Yeah, we were constantly being punished. I got to a point where they'd say, what were the other shows? There were shows there were weekend shows in the morning.
Velocity, and Sunday Night Heat, or whatever.
You knew it was like being sent down to AAA.
Yeah.
You would say, you're going to take this guy and you work with something for him, find something for him.
Yeah,
you want to see what we're going to see what he's going to do.
Oh, wow.
And
go to Louisville and work with the Louisville.
And then still you got to show it to Vince, and he's going to hate it because he hates the whole thing. He's just, why? If those guys are down there, I don't know, really, unless you're doing something spectacular. So when you get punished, it was you felt small. And we'd go in the back. Usually we just hide in the back of the room, so they wouldn't see us.
Do you guys think that you were victims of what happens when you have too much money and you don't know what to do with it? Or
no, I think they really knew their business. I think they really did, and we were interlopers in a certain way. I mean, and they just didn't want to reach out to make us make the adjustment. I think ultimately, and ultimately a commitment you had to have. I mean, I have to say, we're not because we're soft, but because we're good professionals. But sometimes there was no day off in the week.
Right.
The day off, they go, "Oh, that's the flight home." Okay, well, really?
It was exhausting.
It was
because
exhausting.
you showed up every day for work, and you were in the writers' room every day. And then 4 days out of the week, especially with a pay-per-view, you're doing 3 shows back to back to back.
And we didn't get paid extra for the pay-per-view,
which
I thought was a kind of bonus.
Yeah. And there was a lot of travel. You didn't know where you were, and you got tired. I fell asleep in a meeting in Vegas, in a production meeting, and that came up too.
What was interesting too, when you spent the whole, because when you pull into a town, you'd unload or whatever, and literally you're going to be on the air live in about 6-7 hours, and it's just a big, like the circus in town, and then you'd finish all your work and the show would start, and you'd like to relax. No, Steph would say, no, you have to watch the show. Go out there and watch the show.
Yeah.
Fuck. I just want to smoke a joint. Jesus.
Yeah, just calm down.
It was delightful.
Larry, I have a question for you. How
Yes.
much of your stuff that you pitched to them, like how many segments that you pitched that you actually just felt really confident behind, and you were like, oh my God, this is something that I would really be happy to see make air. How much of that actually made it on air?
I think the first part of my thing there, when I was the new kid in town, I did pretty well. I scored in Chicago. I had a whole thing where Guts got dumped on, I want to say Shawn Michaels, I think, or somebody, which was pretty, exactly how I wanted it. And then the Hulk, the Hulk thing I got to write, I thought was really...
Wait, Hulk Shawn Michaels?
No, Hulk or Muhammad Hassan.
Okay.
But Shawn Michaels came into that, actually.
Yeah.
At the Super Slam, he did join that, as I remember. And I thought that was good. And then the Heiderreich stuff. But I had so much other stuff that I just it was just they just would take it away from me. I got to write for Eminem a bit, which I liked, and I'm happy to see that Johnny there, who was I think Johnny Thunder there, is now Johnny Mundo at
Johnny Nitro, you mean?
Yeah, Johnny Nitro, yeah, because they were good kids. We we really groomed them. They had come up from what was it called, Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Yeah,
And,
that was their developmental
and they
territory.
were good.
Yeah.
And what happened to Melinda? Is she still in the game, or?
I haven't seen her in years.
Because he's done well, I think.
Melina, for those of you.
Yeah, Melina, her name was. Yeah.
So for those.
But most, but then I just, I just like Gary said, I just kept writing for like the lower down guys. I had the other guy, Rob Conway. I could never break him. I was trying to get him. He had broken up. He had been in the French Resistance or something.
Yeah, La Resistance.
La Resistance, and I was trying to do Rob the Con Man Conway, and it couldn't get that going.
You complained about your travel.
Well, that was the end.
That's what did
that
you
was
in.
the end. No, that was the end when I got the because usually we flew with Vince's plane, and then this particular time I was starting to go down in their estimation. I think I got the thing saying we couldn't fly in the plane because there was a surprise. They had the wrestlers on the plane for some reason. And so I got the note saying that, Larry, you'll be driving the writers from St. Louis to Kansas City after the show. I'm going I'm like 60 years old. I'm not going to drive anybody. What are you talking about? And I had this thing with her. She says, well, we're barnstormers by nature, and everyone occasionally has to do it. I said, well, I'm a writer. I'm not a driver. Couldn't they have one of the younger guys drive?
Cut to the road.
Yeah.
20 minutes later.
Yeah. And you were driving.
God.
The next week, Larry, you're not going anywhere this week. You'll stay home and do some other things, like some busy stuff. Yeah, that was like the last 2 weeks of my thing there when I finally got called in, like Gary said, for a meeting at 2 and kind of sat there till 5 till she could fire me. It was like a primal scream.
Oh, he was so happy. I remember he was so happy. He called me and said, they let me go. I was so angry at Larry.
Because
how could you do that?
Because we traveled, we'd hang out.
I had no one there.
I know.
I was all alone.
Yeah, because the other guys were young. And you know what? The difference was, and I really like these guys. They're terrific guys. But when we would finish a day at the office and leave maybe 6, 7 o'clock if we were lucky, they would go home and after dinner watch old wrestling videos because they were the real thing. We were not. We were not. I mean, we were just guys working for hire. We were mercenaries.
Well, plus when it takes time to see the field, and you need time. You need a few months to see the field and see what you're doing and know when something's not right, and your instincts kick in, and they expect that right away. Unfortunately, when they do decide that in that particular time period that it was time to let you go, you were actually starting to get it.
Yeah.
And when I left, and I went through the same process as Larry did, and I had words with Stephanie, and that was it. But when I'm going, it's too bad because I kind of get it now. I can do this. And they really need people to do it.
Yeah, like you were good. Gary was very good. I mean, they were lucky to have him there. I mean, because you need that kind of steady hand doing that camera stuff on the fly.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
So basically, by the time you guys actually really got your footing, you're like, okay, I let's do it. Let's
I wasn't that way.
Yeah.
No, I had enough. I just felt, when I saw in the manifest to Europe that I was older than Vince, I went, oh shit. And then Steffi said to me, and Vince works 52 weeks a year. Yeah. Okay, I mean, there's no wrestling has there's no hiatus.
Well, when we got there, Larry got there a few weeks ahead of me. But when we got there, Vince was coming off an injury.
Oh yeah, hernia.
I think he'd blown out both his knees.
Right. That was at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And he was not happy. He was not happy.
Yeah, because John Cena and Batista botched the finish.
Yeah.
For the Royal Rumble.
Right.
So.
And I guess he tried to get in the ring. And he had
tried to slide in.
Yeah, it was. He was working out. He was.
Yeah.
But Vince was not happy, and then he started. He eased himself back in, and he was a little happier. But it was quite something to see that man control all the strings because there's a lot going on during a WWE shoot. It's pretty significant. And we're doing 2-3 a week. And it always gets done, It's like
he's pretty impressive. I mean, he's a genius. you know, it doesn't have to be a nice person to be a genius.
No, yeah.
But I saw him also, you know, creating characters, you know, on the fly. You know, I mean, how he was like an improvisational master. Like there'd be like one character. I remember we were stuck with this baby-faced big guy named Morgan. His last name was Morgan. I don't know, Matt Morgan maybe. Matt Morgan, yeah. And we're going, oh, he's a baby face, but he's a big guy. Vince says, he's got to stutter, you dummies. He should be stuttering. Okay, that was it. You know, kind of gave him a character, and that was, you know, but because we literally had to go on like that in a couple of hours. The guy had a character.
Oh wow!
I don't think he lasted too long.
Yeah,
but,
I don't remember him.
He was, you know, he was in WWE with SmackDown probably.
I think he went to TNA eventually.
Yeah.
But we were fortunate that, you know, to be in that space, that place where you're in the room, you're contributing, they're talking about, you know, what's going to happen in these matches. The agents are involved, the writers are involved. You're trying to guide the arc of the story of the season through, and who's going to be, you know, who's going to emerge, who's not going to emerge, you know, and it's really even not clear when we were doing it who was going to be the winner.
Right.
And then we would decide. It was sort of like a regular writer's room at times. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but
And Michael Hayes was terrific, and
yeah.
he was always terrific to me, stand up. And
Good guy.
You know, we also had the $1 Million Man was in our writers' room, and he was a good soul. I don't think he was, but Lagana, I thought Lagana was excellent. I thought he did a really good job those years. I know he's a controversial guy there, but I thought he was really good. And Brian certainly, and Ed Keats.
Yeah.
Ed Keats. Was it Ed?
Not
Ed
Keats.
Keating.
Keating.
Ed
Something
Keating?
like that. I don't know.
You don't know the guy's name? Ed. He's been there for Koski.
Koski, yeah,
Ed
Philadelphia.
Ed Koski,
He was
yeah.
a Philadelphia fan.
Very good wrestling writer. He's got to still be there.
Yeah.
These are lifers.
Honestly, they didn't need anybody else.
No, they didn't need. They were carrying us.
What was the length of your employment there?
Like 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
I mean,
probably spanned.
had you stayed around for like the whole,
I got paid for a year.
There you go. But I mean, had you actually stayed there for the whole year, I bet you could have actually, you know, helped.
I really tried. I mean, I
know
tried
you,
to
yeah,
absorb
yeah.
I've written all kinds of stuff. I wanted it to work because I love theater too. And,
Right.
and there's no bigger theater than what they're doing. It's phenomenal.
I agree.
You know, I mean, technically, all the other stuff. I mean, that was the other thing. They do the ribbon. You know, they say, "Hey, Larry, stand over here," and then they blow off the pyro. That was have that happen to you early on. That's always what they do.
You wouldn't have to worry about that today. They've completely cut pyro out of
no
the
pyro
show.
anymore.
Yeah,
Oh,
only
wow.
for WrestleMania this year. He's trying to save money for the XFL. That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah, they got scooped by Charlie Ebersol in the spring league they're doing before him.
Yeah.
You know, Dick Ebersol's son is his partner from the XFL. Son has another league starting before him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I think my first flight, when the first weekend I was on the team, I got on the plane, and you know it's a fairly large private plane, like
Maybe 15 seats. Yeah.
But there are 2 seats of the bulkhead that face the tail aft.
Yeah.
And those are like VIP seats.
Yeah.
Right. So I get on the plane. Brian Gerwitz says to me, "Yeah, sit right there." Right.
Yeah.
And I go, "Oh, okay." So I sit there, and in comes Vince, in comes JR, in comes
Well, it'd be Michael Cole.
Triple H, Stephanie.
Triple H,
They're all there, and I'm sitting in the number 1 chair, and Vince is looking at me like I met him once. Like, what's this? And no one said anything. I sat there the entire time, and they're all looking at me like, this is how I got the name Hollywood. I just came in and sat, and it's like, oh, Mr. Entitled over there, Mr. Big Shot,
Speaking of the plane, I think it was before you were there, but we had done an exhausting 2 shows, and now we're flying home, and we land, and it's like 2 a.m, and we can't get out because Vince is just getting his dinner now. The way the plane was, the writers were in the back.
Yeah.
And like Gary said, you can't go in front of Vince. So literally, we were seeing, and the guys, they were making bets how long it was going to take, and it was such a crack up. It was actually Taz was there. It was who I like a lot. The guy Taz,
Oh
him?
yeah.
He was great.
He has a show
Taz
on
and Michael
CBS.
Cole, and literally, I was drinking, and I had soda going through my nose. I mean, it was such a bad scene, and it took a half an hour. We had to wait in the plane a half an hour for him to finish dinner and then leave, so we could then go.
Yeah, it's fun times.
Wow. Do you guys have any wrestlers that you really loved working with?
Yeah, I liked Kurt Angle, I liked a great deal.
Yeah.
He was a pro. He was, he listened. He did, he wanted direction, and he was talented. He had a good, he had a good persona, a good character. I liked John Cena. He was a good guy. Worked hard. Did his work. You knew he was going to be a big star. I really have, besides JBL, I had no complaint. They were all pros.
Yeah.
They were all pros.
Yeah, I have to say, I felt there's very few other than JBL, like you said. I felt and of course, because being married to the princess of the WWE, it was, Triple H was a fearful figure, and he all the wrestlers were afraid of him because he actually was in the room when they were making decisions of who's going to do what. He affected their future, and they knew it, and he knew it.
Yeah, and he was also on the card at the time too.
Oh,
so
he had storylines.
He always felt there was some sort of Shakespearean plotting going on.
Oh, well, he got rid of Shane McMahon.
Shane was gone.
Yeah, I like Shane.
Yeah, there was some.
Were you guys there when he left?
Yes, I was. Yeah, because I was right in the middle of it. He got sent to China, I think, or something.
Yeah, he went to China to run some sort of broadband
like
company.
Fredo going away. Yeah, Fredo to Vegas.
Oh, man.
No, I think it was a power play. I think Stephanie really wanted him out of the way for Triple H's sake.
Yeah,
but the wrestlers I liked Heidenreich. He was kind of fun, and John Cena was really. He was so welcoming to you when you came. He really was a really decent man, a good guy, good to work with. And Jonathan Coachman, I really like. He wasn't there that long. And
he's back now.
Hulk, Hulk is Hulk's a trip. He's a a good guy to work with. And I think those guys were good. Then a lot of like I said, I worked a lot of the lower card guys. Then eventually like Rob Conway and
you remember some of the
go
other down.
I started going down.
Yeah. You're like working in the parking lot.
Eminem. And then I kind of botched the Boogeyman. Yeah, he was going to become big, and I couldn't quite get a handle on him, or at least whatever I did, they wouldn't accept. So I got the first shot at the Boogeyman.
Once you were in that, dynamic, in that paradigm. Once you'd crossed the Rubicon. You were not in favor. You weren't coming back.
No one was going to support you at that point. Yeah. It was just a matter of time. And also, people, I'm sure the other writers had to be a little bit resentful because we were probably making twice as much as them.
Yeah.
They were.
Oh, because you guys were recruited or whatever.
Yeah, they were local guys.
Yeah.
So that's just the way the business is.
Right. So, you'll be happy to know that the Boogeyman still has like legendary status at this point.
I know. Like I said, I totally blew it because he obviously had. Yeah, there was the other.
No, but I mean, like they bring him in for like gags and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, like he's still poking around.
What was his real name?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I think he had another character before that, which I also worked on. It was a military character.
Oh wow.
And I can't remember. I think he was something else before.
I don't really remember much about him.
I don't have fond memories of JR particularly. I kind of find him distasteful.
Yeah, I didn't know. Those guys.
I like Michael Cole and Taz.
Yeah, they were all. Yeah,
Taz.
yeah.
Well, they were working hard. They were trying to compete with like JR and King and stuff like that. Yeah. So they wanted to.
Well, plus Vince loved JR, and they were good friends. So
they would sit right across the aisle from each other. Yeah. Oh, the other great thing I had, and the other guy who was revered there, of course, is Pat Patterson.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And which is amazing because everyone thinks the WWE is so homophobic, but here's this gay guy, and he created the Royal Rumble, and he can do no wrong. But he came over to us with London, so I got to really hang out with him, and he just was the coolest, great guy. But on the flight home, he wanted to smoke a cigarette. And Vince said, "You smoke a cigarette? You're not smoking a cigarette." He says, "If I can't smoke a cigarette, I'm taking all my clothes off." Vince says, "You're not smoking a cigarette." I said, "Well, I'm taking my clothes off." And he started taking them. All right, smoke the fucking cigarette.
Vince was fond of food fights on the plane.
Yeah, that was the other thing.
He would throw food at you. And
this was the bigger plane.
Really, to entice you to.
This was the bigger plane.
To motivate you to throw it back at him. He loved food fights. It was like Animal House in that plane.
Oh, you think he still likes that stuff now? In his 70s?
I don't know.
Who knows?
Probably.
Probably. Yeah. Do you guys still keep tabs on the product today? You guys watch it anyway at all?
I do. I'll come across it and I'll watch 10, 15 minutes. That's
like me sometimes.
Yeah, but as in many things in entertainment, I seem to the charismatic stars seem to be on the short side.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
And we were there when The Rock had just Mick Foley wasn't there. The Rock, had gone off, started doing movies.
Batista.
So yeah, Batista was there, but Batista, the impression I got from Batista was that he couldn't really, he didn't perform.
He couldn't cut a promo.
But however, Batista in the elevator alone was very imposing because he had veins on top of his veins. I'd never seen anything like it.
That's why he's in Marvel movies now. He's like he's kind of
got a good movie
larger than life.
A guy in the elevator, a guy in the Speedo with veins on top of his veins is imposing.
Yeah. There were some good big guys. I mean, they were so athletic, but certainly we loved the Rey Mysterio. Was these guys were a trip.
Yeah,
and that's why the stuff I tend to watch now is Krista Joseph's Lucha Underground, which I find pretty fascinating. And
it's really it's well done.
Well, the other thing was when we worked with Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero.
I totally forgot.
And those guys, you really didn't see that.
The rabid something.
The rabid Wolverine.
I mean, Eddie Guerrero was unbelievable. He was a great guy, and never you didn't know that he had these demons. Well, we know why. And Benoit was a sweet guy who was a great wrestler, but they could never get the performance out of him, and kind of stopped him from being So therefore,
every wrestler wanted to work with him because he was the epitome of the best working wrestler in the ring.
He was like an artist in the ring.
Yeah, and that was so shocking when that happened. That was sad. Yeah, because we.
I mean, that would be shocking in any industry.
That was the two guys we worked with that year, and Eddie Guerrero died of a heart attack in Minnesota, I think, right before the pay-per-view.
And that was sad. That was sad to see because those guys.
I had just left the company at that point.
You just had no idea that they had these medically created demons.
Yeah, no, definitely. You guys so you had just left after Eddie Guerrero died, or a little before?
Just before, maybe the week before Eddie Guerrero died.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to hear about that, and it was just
the guys were. I think they were devastated. I mean, he was really well liked, and
he's also an amazing worker in the ring.
Amazing, and he was history too. I mean, he was all him and.
And Benoit
because then we had Chavo Guerrero too. I see he's doing lots of stuff now. He's working with the women's thing, the women's show, Glow.
Yeah. Oh, is he?
Yeah, Chavo's the technical advisor for that.
Oh, it's so.
And he was kind of okay. He was,
What do you guys think of Glow?
I never watched it.
Oh, you haven't watched it? Okay,
I saw it. I mean, it was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of. I didn't really, the ladies were good, but I mean, when you work with these women, they work out, they're tough, they can take a hit.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get that from. I thought the technique was not really representative of what the technique of the divas are.
Right? Yeah, I think
we got to work with Stacy Keibler. I got to work with. She was really great, and Trish Stratus. They were, they were really cool people. I thought, and interesting, and I like both of them a lot.
Yeah, they all came back for the first ever Women's Royal Rumble.
Oh, good. Did they? Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
they finally did that this year.
She was a big Beverly Hills 90210 fan, so I had a good relationship with Stacy. That was great. That's all she wanted to talk about.
I don't think Stacy came back.
She probably, she got jilted by George Clooney. She got jilted, huh?
That was a surprise.
Yeah. Oh, well. But yeah, they were good. Look, they all worked hard, and it was we were happy to have that experience and survive it basically.
Yeah, it was like summer camp.
It's a unique experience. You can dine out on it for
a
little bit. You can do podcasts.
Right, sure. Why not?
Cena was a good guy, and he was just starting out, and I liked working with him. I did some scenes with him, and there was a movie, Happy Gilmore. This movie, there's an actor, I forget, Chris McDonald, I think, played the shooter, the commissioner, and my son and his friends, when we were in school, would always tease me. They called me Shooter because they thought I looked like Shooter from Happy Gilmore. And Cena one day turns around and says, we did a scene, says, did that work for you, Shooter? I said, oh, come on, you too? I mean, it's like, where'd you get that from?
Do you mean Norm Macdonald?
No, not. I think it's Chris McDonald. I'm not sure. My memory's fading in these later years, Larry.
Would you guys ever go back?
No.
Yeah,
no
I
way.
think so.
But they would. I mean, it's a
that experiment's over, and it was sad because, guys would come in. It was a revolving door. Guys would come in, and they knew in a week, that they weren't going to fit, and a lot of them were guys from Hollywood that had been aged out, and were showrunners. And the one guy whose name I don't give out was a fairly well-known showrunner. And he just didn't get it. He didn't understand what the hell was going on. And he came to me. He said, what do I do? And I said, you just have to listen and be assertive and get in there. I mean, I gave him the pep talk. But it was sad because here was a guy that had a good career. and he was getting eaten up in the WWE.
Oh my God! Wow.
I go, but there were a lot of you saw a lot of it. It was sort of a badge of honor to last as long as we did.
Yeah.
What would this is kind of a difficult question, but what would the ideal experience have been had it not been like this high school hazing type of environment, and you're not kind of like Vince McMahon is like the governor. He just basically takes everything and has final say.
Yeah.
It's not like that in like normal
writing.
writing.
Vince is one of those few guys
Yeah.
in life that has no one to answer to.
Right.
He's got this company. He's a jillionaire. He's never questioned. He is he never has to. I mean, so that has a effect on someone,
Right.
And you lose your perspective as he has, because everyone's scared to death.
It's a bubble.
Yeah.
It's like a bubble that they live in. Like,
but
it's not like anything else.
And I did have some time with Vince, like when I flew alone with him, where he was totally cool and was interested in what you had to say, and but when he was in his world, that thing took over, and he became the character, Mr. McMahon.
Yeah, he would play the heel character basically.
Right. Yeah.
That way he was comfortable, living in a work. He liked being in the work.
Yeah.
And because he could use that, he knew how to navigate that character. But yeah,
also you never have time off.
Yeah.
I mean, you have no time to do anything in life.
Well, I was going to say, what you were saying before. The difference was, and theater, Shannon.
Yeah.
Shannon, everyone kind of comes together, and that's what's so great about
Right.
create this community, and everyone works together, whatever. And there's this great
It's family.
endorphic belief. It's
Yeah.
a family.
Yeah.
And for us, they never brought us into that family. So the feeling was, and for some of
You
them,
were
it is
outsiders, yeah.
family. Like people, they felt, for years that you feel like you're part of this thing. Because one thing I don't know if you remember too, when you get off the plane, they would hug you.
Right.
Like first they hate you, but now they hug you and say goodnight or whatever, and so they tried for that, but at the same time there was terror in between.
Oh, wow.
Terror and hugging.
Yeah. Terror and hugging. The Larry Mollin story. So would you guys ever consider working on a wrestling product ever again?
Wrestling product?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if Lucha
of
Underground
course,
called
yeah.
or something like that.
Of course.
Just not the McMahon family.
Well, I don't think they. I came up on a website that the 12 people that Vince McMahon doesn't want you to know about. I was like number 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess I'll move up now if your
Yeah.
podcast gets. I've become a stooge, I guess. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, not to tell tales.
No, a lot of people are doing it. That's the only reason I'm doing it, because I see other people now doing it. So, what the hell?
Yeah.
For a while, I felt responsible not to, but
I mean,
it was a long time ago now. What was it?
Well, it's 13 years ago. Yeah.
13
Yeah.
years ago.
Seems like
yeah.
yesterday.
Seems like it.
Yeah. So, did you guys see WrestleMania or anything at all this year?
I did not.
Okay.
Last time I saw WrestleMania was the Daniel Bryant one a couple of years ago.
Oh,
I went over it with Sean
that was when
Conaway
I started.
and watched it.
I came out of wrestling watching retirement.
That was
for
the
me.
first year it was streaming,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
I went down to watch it with my old assistant, Sean Conaway, who's a really great guy and really talented. And he's not doing in wrestling now, but I always think he'll go back to it because he really understands it.
Yeah. You have any questions, Bob?
You ran through a lot of the stuff I was going to ask. How much?
Here, you have to ask it on the microphone.
Oh my God. Okay, let's grab this.
All right.
Oh, there you go.
How much do you think? How much as writers, because it's interesting. You guys were talking about Cena, and you were talking about a lot of the performers, and there's a lot of like stuff coming out today about how everything is super scripted. Like, there's not a lot of like improvisational stuff. Everything's written down. Even the promos are written down now. And
Well, the promos were always written down.
yeah. Well, now it's like even like the art, the talent. There's almost what you read from like outside is like the talent doesn't even have any input in their promos. Like, how much input when you guys were there did the talent have on their promos, on their presentation, and how do you think like the taking away of that or the adding of that will like add to a person's ability to like perform?
Well, as in any, there's not much difference between they're actors, and you have to, when you're working with an actor, you have to give them some space. And, when we were doing it, depending on who
I was going to say their
the
status.
wrestler- yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's Triple H, you're working with Triple H, and he says, "No, I want to try it this way." It's going to be done that way. Well, any of them, So they were much more. I mean, I'm kind of surprised to hear that it's all scripted now, because it was really, you would give them a structure.
Yeah.
But you gave them, the guys that were on every week, they knew their character, and they knew, unless Stephanie came in the room and said, "You have to say it this way," which she often did. Yeah. You give them space, and that's because it is kind of an improv form.
Yeah, I mean, some guys would want you to write it down. Like Chris Benoit was not going to improv. But depending on the stats, like the guys in the lower end of the totem pole, they were just happy they were getting lines. I mean, so they were going to do whatever you wanted. But they also knew their characters better than we did. So yeah, we wanted to know what they thought. That was really helpful to us. So we usually go there first, tell them what we were thinking, get their ideas, and then go back and write it up, and then show it to them again. That would be the ideal situation, assuming there was time, because you were always running. I mean, the actors, the wrestlers would not get those promos until the day, 5-6 hours before, you were going to be going after the agents meeting, basically. Yeah. That's when it would all break up, and you'd go back to your things and start typing away like crazy and getting stuff out there and running back and forth.
I would say if that's what's happened, and the product is now all scripted and there's no room to move then they got a problem.
Yeah, well, it just came out like they literally just leaked a whole script of a segment.
Yeah.
Down to the lines, and it was completely reproduced.
Well, I mean, we had scripts too. I mean, I'm not shocked, but I think within that, though, I'm sure there was room for people to do what they wanted.
I think when you guys were working in 2005, it was a much better product than it is today.
Well, I think Brian Gerwitz and Lagana at that time, and Ed, the three guys who and Michael Hayes, they really knew it. I mean, they were good leaders.
I remember Brian actually left at that to do movies, to do some WWE movies. And that room missed him a great deal.
Yeah.
He was struggling at that time.
Because Vince really respected him. So, I mean, that was one, because you needed to have your stuff approved. Otherwise, you'd be there all night.
Right.
So at least, and Brian, of course, worked on Raw. So I didn't work as much with Brian as with David, who was the head of SmackDown.
Except one night we're doing Raw and one night we're doing SmackDown.
Yeah,
so everyone, it was all hands in,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that just the product today is really suffering. It's got such a lack of energy, and the reason I kept asking you guys, like, did you watch, have you seen anything, is because I was just wondering if you would have any suggestions on how they could actually make it better.
I would
bring
say
some fucking energy to that product.
You got to keep your audience growing, so they have to. There are large urban audiences now that they have to be in touch with, and they have to be able to get those kids watching, and teenagers and young adults watching, and millennials watching. So they really need to get the pulse of what our culture is now, and they kind of did then, but it's changed a great deal. So I'm having not seen a lot of the show, if they're still doing the same thing and doing the same characters, and they're missing out on opportunities. I mean,
that's why Vince must want it this way.
There should be,
because he'll just change everything the way he wants.
There should be a hipster, a trust fund wrestler, and a hipster wrestler.
See, there we go. Now we have good characters.
Yeah,
hipster characters. But a significant thing just happened.
At least more interesting than what I've seen.
But they just got, and I'm sure it's going to get better, because they just got 2 hours of primetime television Friday night on Fox, 8 to 10.
Right.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's a home run. You saw what it did to the stock. A couple of my friends who have stock were very, very happy.
There you go.
You're happy too.
I'm happy.
But because of that, because Fox is there, it's a Fox show, you're going to see, I think, a really good product, because that's a real opportunity.
Well,
for
I would also assume that Vince, when we were at UPN, which was in business at the time doing SmackDown, they interfered with. They told him to cut a segment when during the London bombing, and Muhammad, there was a terrorist attack during a match, and all these Al Qaeda guys came in, and the man in the ring, and he was the ring. It was really
we were playing it.
It was interesting, and so the next day after we've shot it, the London bombing happens, and UPN, it hadn't aired yet, and UPN said, we're not airing that. And Vince did not like working. His network had never told him that before, and Fox, I assume, will be, trying to put their stamp on this, especially if the
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I'm sure they will. Here's another mistake. I was thinking about UPN. I made. Remember, UPN, their slogan for the network that year was going to be, and it made no sense why they had wrestling, where the girls are.
yeah.
So I pitched this whole Moolah thing,
Oh wow.
and everyone said, "Oh, no, everyone hated that." I thought it was kind of funny, You'd have her doing this, hosting where the girls are.
Yeah, well,
I didn't know anything.
So you were trying to like actually synergize
I-
whatever the network was doing.
You
You
know,
said, "Hey,
I'm just
look."
trying to, be professional. But yeah, when I think about it now, the fact that the show is on UPN, which was a nothing stupid network, was
Yeah.
totally in chaos, really probably hurt us also. The product we were doing at that time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he just wanted to get on like primetime
Yes, he
like
did.
non-cable TV, just have a
Right.
product
Yeah.
kind of out
But
there.
now this being back on broadcast, this is the first time since the main event, of NBC. This is a big deal.
So it's
a real big
actually
deal.
going to be on Fox
Every
5.
Friday, 8 to 10. Thursday on Fox is football. Thursday
Yeah.
night football they have now. Friday, 8 to 10, SmackDown.
Wow, I can't believe that. I didn't know if
That's why
that
your
deal
stock
actually
went up.
went.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't know if that deal actually went through. They didn't. They didn't.
They announced the fall. They announced the
Yeah.
fall schedule,
Right.
and a lot of shows didn't make it because it's
Well,
2
we'll have
hours
to
going
see
to
how
the WWE.
Have to see how the numbers are.
So do you think the
I guarantee they'll be better than any half-hour comedy they
Yeah.
put there.
Well, I mean, do you think the network is actually going to try to be like, look, we need to make this product a little more interesting? And 8 to 10 is like,
well, yeah, of
it's
course.
like
they have, they're gonna.
Well, they want the stars there every.
Yeah,
they'll want the stars. They don't want.
they want promotable
Yeah.
log lines, and
Yeah.
what networks want. I mean,
yeah, because I just
and
feel
they're
like
desperate too.
like the way of the WWE now, they went from PG-13 to PG, right? So they have like a little bit more of a watered down product. As far as like violence and color, like you don't see color at all anymore.
Oh, really? You don't?
Yeah, barely.
Gee, that's too bad.
Well, that was the thing they cut.
Yeah, they were cutting themselves.
I mean,
stuff.
bleeding is kind of like a frowned upon practice anyway because it's like it's unsanitary, it's disgusting. But like at the same time, like once in a blue moon, I get it. Like
Yeah.
it's good storytelling for a match. But I digress. The reason I'm saying it is like it's kind of such a watered down product is because they're just not trying to really build and develop these characters. I feel.
Well, yeah, that's true. But a lot of it's because they don't have the performers they used to.
Right.
And they got in this day and age with all the different types of entertainment there are, and all the attention span being what it is, and programming is not the same, and so you got to look at the fan base and see how strong it is. The fan base when we were there was incredible.
It's still very strong.
Okay.
But I
mean,
feel
we
like they're
felt
gonna
like
lose
rock
it.
stars when we would
Yeah.
pull up with the
Yeah.
limousines to things. We felt like rock stars and go to the hotel. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'd sign autographs.
yeah, I mean, it was pretty crazy. I think we're good.
But in any event, you feel that with the Fox deal that this could actually change it for the better.
Yes, I think it'll
in a sense?
really push them to up the product. I think you'll see a good year coming in the fall.
I assume they'll bring in some of their talent, like Fox stars, and they'll
The
they'll
Rock will all of a sudden walk through, and
they'll bring in
Steve Austin.
yeah.
Steve Austin.
they need stuff to promote.
You
So
he's
they'll-
think
he's still
Steve Austin
revered.
will
I
come
don't
back
know.
as like the
Vince-
SmackDown GM or something like that?
Well, they might not necessarily a regular thing, but they might, you might be able to promote him for an episode or whatever, because he's revered obviously in the WWE. He's the guy who saved the WWE. He's credited for that. I guess
Interesting.
when they were
Yeah,
challenged
when they
by
were fighting
by
WCW, yeah.
WCW. That's always.
I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump made an appearance.
Really?
Why not?
And Fox.
Why not?
Fox is
Why
his
not?
friend,
Well, it's
right?
Why
Vince and Donald
thing.
are very close, and I always assumed. I know you told me you read that article I wrote about. I saw this coming a long time ago, but I always assumed that during the campaign, that the guy Trump was calling was Vince.
The guy.
The guy. I said it. He's a guy.
But you can't call Undertaker guy. Vince is
Vince
call,
is the guy.
yeah.
Vince is the guy.
He wants to be one of the guys,
Yeah.
or one of the
No,
boys.
but
yes, I'm sure.
Because it was so by the book. It was so by the heel book.
playbook. Oh, yeah,
that
absolutely.
I go, who do you call to get direction on your character? You call Vince.
The biggest contributor to the Trump Foundation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$10 million.
That's very interesting. But of course, Linda McMahon is.
I like Linda.
Yeah, Linda's
I always thought
good
she was
lady.
a classy lady.
Never
I
knew
liked her.
that she knew anything about hot politics because I've spent some time with Linda and never a peep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I always admired her. I thought she was really, really above the fray.
All right, well, I guess we will wrap up. I just want to thank you, gentlemen.
Sure.
Larry
Thank you.
Mollin,
Yeah.
Gary Brown. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Shannon and Bob.
And thank you for coming on our 50th episode. You guys definitely
Our
truly
50th, the golden episode.
Yeah, you guys truly made it very special.
Oh, great.
And I don't know if we'll put this up in like 2 parts or something like that, but thank you guys.
You have our addresses for the checks.
Yeah, I do. I have your addresses.
We'll fight you for them.
You guys can give me your
residual information.
your emails, and I'll Venmo you guys a little something special. All right, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank
That's
you.
great, Shannon. Thanks.